Hey YouTube, Mark Hoffman here, and first off I wanted to show you guys what this knife looked like when I received it. These are actually the seller's photos, and this is what the knife looked like, and on the back side of the nail file is somebody's name. So I am going to be removing that, but I'm also going to be polishing up all the other blades. So what I started out with was a very low grit sandpaper, and then I moved on up to a very high grit sandpaper. Now, I was actually very surprised at how long this took me, and primarily that was because of the name on the back of the nail file, but there were also some pretty bad scratches on the blades. So for me, I was not expecting how long that was going to take, but it is just a waiting game. You've got to go from a low grit to a high grit, double check, and maybe even run your fingernail across the blade to see where the deeper scratches are, and then go back and do it over. Don't remove too much material though, because that will deshape the blade and deshape the tip of the blade. So you have to be very careful as well. So the blades are all finished, and now the real job at hand, the nail file. Now, this was crudely done, probably with some kind of drill or engraving tool. And here I am actually using about a 200 grit sandpaper, and then I'm moving up to 400, 800, 900, and then eventually a 2000. And personally, this is not the way to go when it comes to putting your name on your knife. It's crudely done. I know that this was probably the only way this man had a way of doing it, but just have a nice engraving done and it will be easier to remove and even better looking. So here it's looking even better and better, but I actually had to go back and forth to remove this, and it definitely took a long time. It took me about an hour to get to where I wanted it to be. So here we go, we're polishing it all up, and then I'm going to focus on the spring of the scissors. Installation of the spring can be done using a pin tool, which is here, and then a small anvil. This is a jeweler's anvil, and I actually used also a staking set as well to decompress and compress this spring into the shape that I wanted. Now, I'll be upfront that the original plan was to keep it in this figuration, but I actually had to change my complete design to what it originally was, which was a single leaf spring. So here I'm just tapping in the spring, and at this point I thought it was going to work, but I had to change it. I ended up bending the spring into its original form, a single leaf spring, and it works a lot better this way because the scissors actually close up into the knife. So there we are. It looks a lot better, I have to say, and I don't see his name anymore. This required a lot more sanding than I was expecting, and I actually had to go back and forth a few times to the polishing wheel and then sanding again to completely remove the name. Now, all the other blades came out great, and I decided not to sharpen the orange peeler because I just didn't feel it needed it. But this thing really did come out really well. Now, one of the big learning points of this whole project, for me at least, was actually the scissor spring. So the newer Victorinox scissor springs actually really won't work on these older knives. You're either going to have to retrofit them or do what I did and change my design altogether, and you're going to have to figure out a way to get it to fit. Now what I ended up doing is basically double bending the internal port there and then bending it backward so then the spring could jet out this way. It actually does work quite well. Just needs a little bit of oil, but we've got plenty of springiness there. And it came out really, really well. It actually almost looks completely original. This knife did at this time period have one leaf spring like this, except it was made out of carbon steel. Those older springs will actually rust on you. But this came out so good that I made another one for this executive over here. Now this is an executive from the 1970s, and this one here needed a spring as well. So now it's got one, and it works just fine. And you can see there that how I had to bend that in there as well. And to be honest, that was a big learning curve. I didn't expect that. And don't worry, this will have a toothpick later on when I do sell it. But it was very interesting to figure out how this was going to work. So both of these knives are actually going to be up for sale. I'll put the sale post down below in the description for both of these. That'll take you to my eBay. But if you want to buy these outright, just shoot me an email and we can discuss a price. So till the next one, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.